Morning, everyone, and welcome to our fourth session of the Leadership Lounge. Now we have been talking about authentic leadership. We have gone through micromanagement. We have spoken about delegation. And today we thought about talking to you about difficult conversation. And difficult conversation really is any conversation that you find difficult to have. So anything that you find hard to talk about. So that could indeed be bad performance. So now we're talking about from the perspective of you as a manager when you are leading other people. So it could indeed be talking about bad performance. It could be talking about bad behavior in the office, but it could also be talking about death, sickness, someone not feeling well. It could be about that you are actually have to reject a request from somebody, having a conversation with someone who has asked for a raise, a promotion, or even just asked for a training maybe, and you have to reject that. That can be a hard conversation for some people. And then for some, it can even be asking for help. So anything really that you find it hard to talk about. So how do we actually prepare for that? So one way I would say is that if you find it hard to talk about, you probably feel a lot of anxiety or tension around it. So first of all, calm down, take a deep breath, and really try to be as relaxed as possible before going into that meeting. Because if you feel like you're being worked up and really tensed, it's going to be noticed, and that's going to set the energy for the whole meeting. So you want to go in and be as relaxed as possible. Then another thing that I find really, really important is that you as a manager need to come from a place of love. You need to come from a good place. You have a good intention. So no matter what the conversation will be about, you are there to make things, to improve things, to make things well for your team. So no matter what it's going to be about, even if it's going to be about bad behavior, you need to address it from a place, a positive place, a place of love. You want to see an improvement. You are there because you want to help. Mm-hmm. So if you at least do these two things, then you're going to have a better start than if you don't do it. What else do you think, Alison, are some good things you can do to prepare for a difficult conversation?
Yeah, I totally agree with that idea of, you're there as a leader to try to help this person. So you're not trying to go in there to make their lives difficult or anything like that. Even if you have to have a tough conversation with them about their performance, or even if you need to make somebody redundant, you can still go in there saying, what can I do to help this person? So kind of lift your own level of energy up to try to help them get through what could be a really difficult time for them. So, I would say before going into a difficult conversation, really consider what it is that you want this person on the other side of the table from you to do, or to think, or to feel, or respond. What is an optimal outcome, and how can you help them get there? And I'd say from personal experience as well, as a second point, if you're giving somebody some negative feedback, one of the most important things you can do to prepare is be completely specific. If this topic is important enough to have a difficult conversation with somebody about, you need to give them enough so that they can grab hold of it and say, okay, this is what I need to change. These are the specific expectations. I had a manager tell me, you're going really great, but in these particular meetings, I think maybe you're a bit combative. I'm like, I thought those meetings were great. Can you give me some examples? And he's like, it's just kind of the vibe. Well, what am I supposed to do with this information? And it was important enough for him to tell me, and it was just frustrating. So I would say be very specific in your examples and what your expectations are at the end, and be very clear, particularly on both of those points. Yeah. What do you think, Tasneem?
Interesting points. I think I'll add to what both of you said. I think for me, when you're preparing for difficult conversations, there are really two key things. Number one is understand your own emotions. And, I completely agree with both of you when you say that you have to keep in mind in terms of, what is your employee or your team members' emotions that are going on. That's absolutely important. The other bit is also acknowledging how you're feeling, because if you're not aware of how you're feeling, whether it's overwhelmed, fear, anxiety, stress, whatever if you're not aware and if you're not addressing those emotions, you'll bring that energy into the meeting. But if you take a step back and you understand, here's what I'm feeling and what can I do about it? Now you have more control over what you're going to feel and what energy you're going to bring into the meeting. So I would say that definitely become aware, understand, and address it. And probably the second point is, be aware of the purpose. What is the purpose of having this conversation? And what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve? So if you keep in mind, building on that positivity bit, that is the outcome making things better for that employee? Is the outcome that or the purpose of it is that one employee is affecting other team members, and therefore, there's some dynamics in the team that are getting impacted, and you as a manager need to address it? Or it could be, impact on the business and it's performance related. And as long as you're clear on the objective, it will really allow you to be as objective in your conversation as possible with very minimum emotion, because you're clear on why you're having this conversation, what needs to be achieved. And therefore, I think that you can also allow yourself to keep it as professional as possible. And then obviously approaching it with care, because we're all human beings. I think that that's the least we can do for each other. So yeah, from my perspective, I think that that's probably how you can best prepare. And that makes me think that that's a preparation bit. But then when we're in that conversation and having that conversation, what can we do while we're having that conversation that can make it easier, or easier for both people or all the parties involved? And probably, I think just building onto that, I would probably say is, I think keeping things objective and fact-based always, from my experience, helps in keeping a lot of feelings and what I think and a lot of subjectivity out of the conversation. So while you're in it, you probably want to always ensure that things are as objective. It's not about what I perceive it to be, but rather what happened, and therefore what can we do? I think that a lot of conversations become very difficult or heated in the moment because there's subjectivity to it. And the way I would perceive and look at things would be very different from how you would do it. And therefore, I think while we're in that conversation, from my perspective, keep it objective, keep it fair. Sophia, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And of course, listen to that other perspective, the person that you have in the room. Make sure that they get to also express their feelings around it, and that they get to ask questions, and that you are answering the questions. Like Alison was saying, like bringing in vague things, or even bringing in that other people are saying this without saying who that is also not working. That's going to be a ghost in the head of this other person for a long time after, like, who could that person be? So listening is really key here. Now, I do believe that there are some difficult conversations when you might not go in and ask questions first, when something has really happened, or when you are really clear about that here, there's definitely bad performance. Then you need to address that, maybe without asking the other person first what's going on. Because you also need to feel that you are confident and strong about what the conversation, what the purpose of the conversation is. So where do you want to go? So if you start to ask questions, then you might be getting off track because the other person also has a strong opinion about their performance. But if you as a manager have made your mind up, then fine. But in general, ask questions and listen, and remember that you are coming from a place where you actually want to improve and help people out. What would you say, Alison? Good things.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, not surprisingly. But I mean, after you've sort of said your piece, why you're both there, what you've experienced about this person, and what your expectations are going forward, what the purpose is, as both of you said, listening. As humans, we very often listen subjectively to other people. So we're hearing other people, how it responds, or how it affects us. So it's like, what am I going to say next? I'm listening so I can respond next. And we do that with our friends down the pub, etc. That's perfectly normal. But in a situation like this, it's really important to actually listen for understanding. So listen much more objectively and almost intuitively as well. So, is there something else below that is really affecting this performance that they're not saying? Are they having difficulties at home or with other colleagues, or are they experiencing a different truth in this situation? Because, my view might be much more subjective than what I thought. So listening is really, really important. And I think you both mentioned as well, some of these conversations don't go quite so well because we are dealing with humans. And so they might pick up, their sympathetic nervous system might start into a fight or flight mode, and they might start blaming or denying or discounting things that you've said. So again, this stage is really important to understand their truth of the situation and, ask questions and paraphrase and repeat things back to them so that they feel like they've been heard and seen and understood. But at the same time, remember the purpose of the meeting, why you went in there, what are the outcomes that you're expecting from this person, and try to really hone in on those and keep those. But, at the same time, as we've all said, they're human. And at the end of the day, we want a good, strong working relationship. And we want them to come out of this meeting feeling energized and hopeful about their actions in the future, rather than demoralized and frustrated. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're looking for. We want a great work environment. So I think that's it for today's topic. That was an interesting one. It brought up all kinds of thoughts about how I used to handle difficult conversations with my team. So I hope everybody out there found this really useful for the next difficult conversation, whatever that might be, wherever that might be. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Leadership Lounge. And if you've got any topic recommendations or suggestions, we would absolutely love to hear from you. So just reach out to one of us here and let us know. And we'll see you next time on the Leadership Lounge. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.